Hello and welcome to Unstuck, Unlimited and Unleashed, the life coaching podcast dedicated to helping you get unstuck from your problems, unlimited with your beliefs and unleashed in your potential. You have two guides on this journey of change and discovery, Rash Gibson of Act and Solve Coaching and myself, Kelly Sabrina of Ugly Coaching. In this episode, we talk about hope, what it is, why it's different to motivation, how it feels, and how you can find it. As always, we share some personal stories around our own experiences with hope, as well as some tools that can be used when trying to cultivate it. 2020 was a really difficult year and rendered so many of us feeling hopeless. So now is such an important time to connect with hope.
Welcome to episode 4 of Unstuck, Unlimited and Unleashed. And today we are going to be talking about hope.
Hope indeed.
So, as usual, we're going to start with a little bit of definitions and some exploration of what hope is.
Right on.
Over to you, Kelly.
Cool. So I've got myself a little printout here of some definitions that I got from the internet. So here's a few that I like for different reasons. So obviously, first definition will be the dictionary definition: hope, a feeling of expectation and desire for a particular thing to happen. Pretty straightforward. Definition number 2 is from a website called hopegrows.net, and they seem to do some counselling stuff, but I didn't dig too much into their background. I just stole their definition because I liked it and left. And their definition is: to have hope is to want an outcome that makes your life better in some way. It not only can help make a tough present situation more bearable, but also can eventually improve our lives because envisioning a better future motivates you to take steps to make it happen. So I quite like that one for the kind of active reason of using hope to motivate you to move forward in your life. So that's quite cool. I got one from Wikipedia. Hope is an optimistic state of mind that is based on expectations of positive outcomes with respect to events and circumstances in one's life or the world at large. We love a wiki, why not? But by far my favourite and the most important to me, the one that kind of put the pin in hope for this episode for me, was from Professor Barbara Fredrickson, who says that hope comes into its own when crisis looms, opening us to new creative possibilities. She also said that with great need comes an unusually wide range of ideas, as well as positive emotions such as happiness, joy, courage, and empowerment. So yeah, that one kind of got me on the coaching level. I was like, so this is the kind of hope I think we're talking about, is how it enables us in adversity when it comes through for us when we're having difficult times. So there's a little rundown of what I found on the internet under hope.
Thanks, Kelly. So I didn't go into definitions as such. So my research focused on getting some ideas about hope from sort of looking at maybe some of the more philosophical perspectives, and also sort of from life experience, I guess. So it was really fascinating, some of the stuff that I came across, because hope is so broad. So it can have religious connotations, it can have really strong philosophical connotations, all this stuff about Pandora's box and hope being in there. But there's also quite a bit of information out there about hope and the placebo and your mindset, and how hope can help you to get through really challenging things. So I found all of that really, really fascinating, and how hope can be so individual and so different. But the main thing is about how it can enable us, and how it can enable the brain to do something completely different. So in terms of coaching, I think the things that we can look at really around hope and defining hope are realistic hope, and also the difference between hope and motivation, because I think sometimes they can be seen as the same thing, but they're different.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't know what thoughts you had about either of those things.
Well, I think, when we were training as coaches and things we were learning as coaches, it's like coaching 101 is we're talking about realistic hope. And this gets drilled into you as somebody who's trying to facilitate change and trying to be, a positive force in somebody's life in some ways, that you get no sweets for helping people dream about stuff they've got no chance of getting. And it's like, yes, we should feel empowered and enabled to see ourselves in the best possible situation we could ever imagine. Yeah, but, you're not going to sprout wings and suddenly fly without, huge leaps in science, perhaps. We've got to talk about what's actually possible, because you need that feedback. You need that it's happening, it's changing, and if you're dealing with the impossible, it's not going to happen ever. And you're just going to feel worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So I think realistic hope is like at the center of coaching, at the center of change.
Yeah, I mean, hope is a belief, isn't it? And your beliefs have to be reinforced for you to be able to carry on believing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you have unrealistic hope and your hope is dashed, then you're not going to carry on believing. You're not going to believe in hope. It's something that you'll become cynical about. It's something that will derail any coaching relationship.
Yeah.
So it being realistic is vitally important.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's exactly. It's unrealistic hope is where bitterness lies and jadedness lies, and failure and feelings of not being good enough. It often can be sprung out of an unrealistic hope, unrealistic expectations. And I mean, yeah, there's got to be some pushback on what people tell you is realistic, because some people will be like, oh, I'm just telling you for your own good that you won't be able to do this. And it's like, hang about, whoa. There's got to be some pushback to, though sometimes there are slim chances of things, there is still a chance, I mean.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, because I think, so in a way we started this conversation by talking about containing hope, by making it realistic. But actually a really key part of our job is helping people to hope and to see things differently. Because the reason why somebody is sitting in front of you is because they've been doing the same thing for however long and it's not worked. And sometimes that can be because of their perspective, because they don't think it's going to work, and whatever they have tried or whatever they've thought of is part of that reinforcing perspective of it's never going to work, it's not achievable, it's not believable, there's no hope here.
Yeah.
So we are in that sort of position of balance, really, of sort of being able to help people to expand that horizon, but also be able to help them feel contained, so that is a realistic enough journey for them to go on.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it might be that your end result that you're going for can be unrealistic for now,
yes,
but not forever.
Yes.
So even if you're kind of dealing in realistic hope, it's like, okay, so look, you might want to run a marathon, but maybe we're dealing with the first 5K. Maybe our job is to say, okay, well, running a marathon next week is a little unrealistic within the time frame you've got and where you're at, and drawing that around to like, what can we do now? But just because something's unrealistic today doesn't mean it always will be. So in terms of realistic and unrealistic hope, it's a bit of a balancing act. It's a bit of a journey. Well, it's all a journey, isn't it? It's a bit of a journey, yes, of course. It's all a journey.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just moving on to hope and motivation, my perspective on that is that hope is like the end goal. It's something that you have to look towards, your dream, your vision, goal. That's where hope is. But motivation is your daily, it's what motivates you. I'm trying to say it without saying the word motivation.
It's what pulls you towards the goal.
The goal, yeah. And it's what enables you to do things every day. Yeah. So it's, hope tends to be more of a sort of longer term. I mean, it could be hope for the end of the week. It doesn't have to be like in the next 2 months. But motivation is what enables you to work towards that on a day-to-day basis. For me, that's how I would differentiate motivation and hope.
Yeah. I feel like they work in tandem a little bit.
Absolutely.
You need the hope to kind of access the motivation. Sometimes, the motivation pulls you towards the goal, which creates more hope for the outcome.
Yes,
You're kind of working in a little sort of cyclic fashion there. The two work together. But I think the problem with when people confuse the two is they say, I haven't got any hope, and they think actually what they haven't got is any motivation. And actually you can tap past that and bring about the motivation by tapping into the hope, which is lying dormant under there somewhere.
Yes.
But if you confuse the two, you can just be like, I'm not feeling good to move towards this thing, and consider that hope, and that's not really what hope is. That's where that confusion can trip us up.
Yeah. And I think, you can have hope without feeling motivated at a particular time.
Completely.
But it can be really difficult to feel motivated if you don't have hope.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting, really interesting.
So I guess that covers definitions of hope and how we feel about it. And also hope and realistic hope, unrealistic hope, and hope and motivation. So I guess that leads us into our stories of hope. So, Rash, do you want to kick us off?
I will kick us off.
Yeah, nice.
So hope has been a bit of a revelation for me.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
So I don't think I ever really had much hope. I feel like I have been going through quite a bit of life as a bit of a cynic, with a bit of a critical eye on everything, with a bit of a limiting eye on everything, particularly when it comes to my own potential. So interestingly, in terms of hope, I have always had a lot of hope for other people. So I can't remember if we talked about this very much in the previous episodes. I think I mentioned about starting off working in the industry I worked in the sort of charity sector as a rescuer. And my whole ethos and idea was very much about hope. And at that time, it was very naive, which is where you become a rescuer, because you're what you're thinking about is unrealistic hope. But through sort of becoming more professional and understanding, I was able to work with people in a more realistic fashion around the hope that I felt for them, but also tapping into the hope that they had. But in my own personal life, I don't feel like I had that much hope at all. So I decided to start a sewing business at one point. And so there must have been some hope there. I could do a business, I could make things. I felt like I had some skills. However, it didn't take very long at all for me to start going, oh, well, it's not going to be that good. Oh, well, there's no hope for me there. Oh, there's no hope for this business to work. Just really, really, all the cynical, negative things that you can think. And I wanted to change jobs. Similar, I didn't have any hope that people would employ me, that I had the right skills. There's lots of things around hope where I just didn't have that sort of inspiration, that lift, that drive to get me to work harder, to overcome all the other negative beliefs that were attached to the things that I wanted to do. But what's been a real revelation to me is in the last 2 years, I feel like I'm living with hope every bloody day. And it's a real shocker to me, because I look back and I think, over the last week, I did X, Y, and Z. This thing was a bit challenging. That thing was a bit challenging, but I did this, and this. And I think, and I did it in a really positive mindset, and I felt really hopeful that it was moving towards something, and that I didn't really need to worry about the fact that all these things that I've done didn't lead to something exactly in that moment, because later on they'll all become part of something else. And it is that hopeful feeling that inspires me to keep going. So I have a real sense of positivity quite a lot of the time. I don't tend to tap into that cynicism and that negativity as much as I used to. I don't pull myself down. My motivation is much higher, and I can tap into that hope really easily. So it's something I'm really it's very close to me at the moment, because I can feel it, I can notice it so much, because it was so absent before.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of telling my story about it, because I feel like I'm telling the story of the feelings.
Yeah.
What's really happened is that I've opened the door for hope by actually starting a business, and by actually telling myself, what is the worst thing that can happen? Actually, let's look at the difficulties. Let's look at what the challenges might be, and let's look at what the worst thing is that could happen, and give it a go. And by giving it a go, I allowed myself hope. And that was mostly around the coaching business, trying that, and just seeing what would happen. And the fact that I enjoy it so much, the fact that, I feel privileged that I'm able to do the business, that I feel like I have the skills, it all leads me to feel in a much more hopeful place, in a much more optimistic, positive place, of not only unleashing my own potential, but also that of the clients I work with. And the fact that I can work with clients who also then have more hope, it just really feeds into my own sense of hope. It just brings me up so much. So I don't know if it's a story in terms of a narrative, but that's my journey of hope. That's how I have begun to feel the power of hope myself, which I never really felt that I had before. It's just so palpable and noticeable for me.
It sounds like you're describing something like a hope magnet, or something that you give it a chance and it kind of snowballs, that it kind of collects in a way. Does that line up with how it feels?
Yeah, it definitely has. Sorry, I forgot that we were doing the audio as well as the video then, because I was nodding my head. Like yes. Definitely does, but I think it's still so novel to me.
Right, yeah.
That it feels still quite powerful.
You're feeling the presence of something new, a new force in your life that's working towards good.
Yeah. And I think it's probably going to feel like that for quite a long time, because, I'm in my late 30s, which, obviously it's not that old, but for the majority of my life, I haven't felt that. So this is going to feel new for a while.
Yeah.
I embrace it, and I recognise it, and I want it to continue to be part of my life. So I think that novelty is going to stay for a little while, because I want to recognise it and respect it.
Yeah, that's fascinating though. I mean, it's really interesting, because I think when we started talking about hope, I was like, yeah, I recognise this is important for coaches and for people on journeys of change to talk about hope, but I hadn't really thought about it much myself. But, from what you're describing, that thing about the absence of it, almost defining it to a point, is probably quite relatable for a lot of people out there, that we haven't really thought about hope, we haven't really interacted with it. And actually, it's something that we need to give a chance to, so we can let it in and let it snowball for us. So that's quite inspiring that you shared that journey, I think.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kelly.
My story of hope, I struggled with this a little bit across the board. I was just thinking, well, obviously there's hope in every journey, otherwise why would we be on it? And why would we be on it if you weren't feeling hopeful. And perhaps, I don't know, like, you messaged me about this and you were like, oh, if you're going to look at the TED Talks on hope, don't, because they're like really emo. Like they make you upset, make you teary.
There was one that I watched that was just, yeah.
It's like, what is it about like our interactions with hope that we have to make it this kind of like epic tidal wave of a story where we're renewed and changed it's like a holy power, the way we talk about it. And I think this is why I struggled with it, because I was like, well, I've never had a holy power story, you know, where hope is, I was in the desert and then I was going to die and then I was hopeful and then I didn't die. I've never had that. I found that really unrelatable, right?
You didn't feel like it was part of the woo side of you.
Yeah, surely as the woo, I would be the one going, but I do believe in mindset.
Yeah.
Yes, I do believe that the placebo effect is the most repeatable effect. So, to cultivate and leverage what we can do in our minds is really important. I guess I've never really married that with hope. And I never really married a lot of my journeys of change or experience with hope specifically. So thinking about this was quite interesting for me. And I was kind of digging around for a story or an experience of mine that specifically caught hope. And it was only when I read Professor Fredrickson's definition that I got my head around this. I was like, oh, it kind of enables us to create new opportunities for survival or moving towards something or moving past something. And I realized that she makes a little point about how hope is like the little engine that could, I think I can, and you make changes and steps that way. And that really resonated with me, because a lot of my stories of change are about how I didn't stop. It's not really about how I felt good about stuff. And actually, many of my big stories, and we can probably listen back to the last 3 episodes, and there's probably a time where I say it felt like crap, but I carried on. That seems to be how much change goes for me. And I didn't realize that was hope, that I felt crap, but I doubled down on it and I pushed back. And it's hope that enables you to do that. I didn't kind of marry that up, that there was kind of a belief that you're doing the right thing and that it just has to go this way, that I just see a future here. And even though all the signs are telling me that maybe this isn't easy or the right path or whatever, there's some bit of me that's seen that future for me and that wants it enough that I just double down. So I was thinking about when I got my degree, and I went to drama school, and it was like we were doing these 12-hour days, and I'm from Edmonton, working class, like no privilege, kind of, well, not no privilege, but like we're not a privileged background, not a privileged area. There was not like a whole bunch of affluence in my area, and people that I knew, and like the school I went to was blacklisted by Ofsted after I left. And so for a person like me to get to like a drama school that's like RADA, Lambda, like one of those drama schools. So I went to the drama centres, and I got onto a course which is like I was one of 6 people on the course to do theatre and film directing. So it was quite a change, and I'd never been around so many privileged people, like in ways that I didn't even understand. I didn't speak like them. I didn't understand their references. I didn't have an education like them, and I felt very up against it, like in that respect. And at the time, I had this kind of really difficult partner, which I won't go into too much, but it was a very hard combination of things. It was like I felt completely out of my depth and completely without support. But some bit of me had imagined this future for myself where I got to go to this fancy drama school and get this fancy degree, and that I was, for a moment when I got offered the place, for a moment I was talented enough and interesting enough and worthy. And I couldn't let go of that when I was smashed in the face with how not good enough I felt and how unworthy I felt, and how this partner that I had really would like me to believe all of that too. So he's doubling down on that energy the whole time. And it was extremely difficult, but there was some bit of me that just stuck at it, that just saw something else for myself against what all the signs were telling me. Because it was 12-hour days. as well. And, you know, it sucked. And I was young as well. I was 18. I was super green. Like, I had next to no experience. Like, there was no experience telling me how to handle this situation. I was suddenly in with a load of people that I didn't understand, doing a load of stuff that I felt way out of my depth, with, you know, no support from my partner, really. In fact, the opposite. You know, I had no, like, experience in the world to tell me otherwise. And the reason I bring it up for this episode is actually the only thing that I had was hope. That was all it was. That was the only thing that sort of, because I wanted to quit. I wanted to so much. It sucked. It was hard. It was long. I didn't make a friend there. Like, I make friends wherever I go, really. I mean, I'm in touch with maybe 2 or 3 people from that whole time. Like, I didn't make a life friend there, or, you know, people that I'm very close with now. I mean, and, like, you know, maybe I made one friend and he's in Norway or whatever. So, you know, like, not like a relationship that you can, like, you see each other a lot, but it was like that I felt very isolated and misunderstood, and, you know, a bunch of different stuff. And it was just such a, there was nothing there for me but hope, basically, you know. And I found the lessons very hard, and the teachers all very kind of, they're all from this really hard theatre background where they just work like crazy, and it's like, leave your baggage at the door. This is the show, darling. And you're like, well, it's like, you know, it wasn't like, I mean, yeah, they're all great and I learned so much and whatever, but I mean, it was just the hope that I was good enough, because I got the place that got me through it. I got through it. I got a 2-1.
Amazing.
I did it, you know. I mean, it was hard. I grew like crazy in those 3 years, you know, like, and I leaned so much on all of those lessons, all of the lessons from that time, not only what I learned in that degree, because I used that forever, all of the learning and the education, but also what I learned about myself, what I learned about other people, what I learned about being in situations where you're not comfortable, or with your group, you know, things like that. And yeah, I mean, I didn't realize, because I often, like I mentioned to you earlier off the cuff, like, I have almost kind of reoccurring nightmares about drama school. Like, it was hard for me for a number of reasons. But yeah, it was literally just the most tangible experience of hope I think I've had. It was just, that's how I did it. Because I often wondered, like, how did I do that? What bit of me? And sometimes when I'm having a hard time in life, I'm searching for that bit. I'm like, what was that bit of me? Who was that did that? Who was that person? Can I talk to her? Can she come to the front? Who was that person? And trying to work out how to access that version of me. And I never had a word to describe it or a way to define what that was going on there, until I sat down to think about hope. And I was like, blimey, that's what that was. That was just the battleship Hope going to sea, you know. And it was every day for 3 years, right?
Amazing.
That wasn't like a short journey. That was
No.
a 3-year degree course every day, leaning on hope, just that it would be, I would be good enough, and it would be all right, and it would make sense, and it would be worth it. Hope that it would be worth it.
It's so powerful. Like, you can really hear the power of hope in that story. That, you know, there was such a big challenge there, and over such a sustained period of time. Like, how do you get through things over a sustained period of times like that? It's hope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, just pure, in its purest form. No other coping mechanisms, no other experience, no other strategies. That was blind hope. So I think thinking about it is extremely powerful. Okay, so I guess we're ready to do some tools. Do you want to do first tools? Shall I do first tools? How you want to? I'm going to tell you my tools.
Okay.
So, as I said, this subject, I felt a little like, oh, I don't know anything about hope. Well, it turns out I do know some stuff about hope, which is pretty handy. And I was like, so what's the thing that worked for me in that story? And the thing that was what I couldn't let go of in a hopeful sense was the vision of me in the new situation. That was the string. So having thought about it and done some looking around my toolbox and so on, I settled on that visualization is an excellent tool for this. If you can start creating the vision of you in the new situation and visit it regularly, and a little bit, I mean, you know, we talk a bit about the miracle question, like, if everything went right, what would this look like? What would it be? If everything was perfect, if everything flowed 1 to 2 to 3 perfectly and you got what you wanted, what would it look like? What would that be like? And I think getting in touch with that is a great tool for you to get in touch with hope, because once you see that new version, that new answer, that new solution, whatever, very beautiful and laid out for you, and imagine it in as much detail as you possibly can for as long as possible, like get right stuck into that. And that will be the thing that tugs you when you hit adversity, when things feel difficult. You'll be like, I saw that and I wanted it and I want it now, and I want it enough that I'm just going for it, dig, dig, dig.
And that tip taps into what we were talking about before, about the difference between hope and motivation, and how motivation often exists in conjunction with hope.
Yeah.
And so if you've got this hopeful idea, this visualization, then you are much more motivated because you can see what it's going to look like when it happens, if it happens, when it happens.
Yeah, 100%. And also, I believe very strongly in that we tell our minds what to find. So if you're in touch with this kind of new vision of where you want to be and how you want it to be, that your subconscious starts finding little ways to get you there. I think it's all these gurus go, oh, life shows you signs. And it's like, kinda, yeah. If you're kind of double down on where you want to go, you start seeing new possibilities. It's like Professor Fredrickson said as well, like, you start, you find new creative opportunities, like your brain starts creating, doing more creative problem solving. So doing that visualization sets that whole wheel in motion, all of those processes subconsciously helping you out.
Yeah, it's the receptiveness to those signs. So it's the fact that you've now opened yourself up to see those signs. So those signs might always have been there, but if you weren't receptive, you wouldn't have seen them.
Yeah.
But by being hopeful and having something to work towards and having that vision, and like you say, really, really clear in as much detail as possible, then you will see all the signs that lead up to that. Because you're now receptive. Yeah. And also you know what it looks like.
Yeah. You can recognise the path to it because you've imagined it. Now you know what it looks like. You know sort of what it's going to take to get you there. People talk about daydreaming like it's a bad thing, and I think, well, if you do some realistic hope daydreaming, I think it's excellent.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah. Realistic hope daydreaming.
Yeah.
This is our new branded tool.
100%. So what's in your toolkit, Rash, for today?
Oh.
In your toolbox. I got another one or two I can bring out, but let's bounce it back and forth a little bit.
Okay, we're changing it up.
Should I not have done that?
Oh, no.
Anyway,
I might need a coach. So I think one of the things that I think is really important to recognise is that, and especially from my own personal experience, is that you can be really ground down. You can be really cynical. So to even take one step out of that can be really challenging. And I think the models of recognising and noting things on a regular basis that challenge that cynicism, that challenge that lack of hope, can be really, really useful. So things like writing 3 positives a day for 21 days, or you could write a gratitude list for 21 days. Things like that, I think, really start to challenge those thoughts and beliefs and open the door for hope, because it can be really difficult just to open that door a little chink in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it starts to open, then you will start to be more receptive to sort of bigger ideas about hope.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, again, like those lists also help your subconscious mind to switch on to these new possibilities, don't they? It's just giving a new set of directions to your programming. This is what we're looking for now.
Yes.
We're not looking for why I suck anymore. We're looking for things to be grateful for. And suddenly you find, and this is why it's 21 days as opposed to like a day or 3 days or whatever. It's just training. You're training your mind to be strong in a new way, to see things to be grateful for, whereas it might have not seen them before. And by day 5, you might be like, oh, I'm struggling a bit today. But by day 7, your brain's cottoned on to like new places to look for gratitude.
Yeah.
And suddenly, by the end of 21 days, you're in full abundance. You're swamped in things that you're like, oh, I'm just grateful for a seat to sit on today. You know, you start finding gratitude bloody everywhere, you know, and it's the same as like, you know, when you're visualizing new positives, it's like you're just retraining your mind to like pull you into better places. You're kind of identifying new tracks. So another tool that I had in line with visualizing your greatest outcome and stuff is vision boarding. So if you're a visual worker, you can cut out images. If you're not like, oh, I'm really struggling to imagine what that would look like, you can go cut and snip things that look like what you think it might look like and create yourself a picture, which might help you connect in a more visual way without using your own imagination, your own creativity. So if you're feeling a bit stuck about visualizing stuff, then vision boarding is always cool. And you do yours with words, Rash, no? You write yours, which is...
I do, yeah. So there's various different ways to do vision boarding, I think. And most of us are actually primarily visual. But I don't know. I think I feel like there's something a bit primary school about it.
Oh, you mean about a bit of cut and stick?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. But also, you know, I think I like words, and I like sort of seeing. I like being more specific. I think that's the thing about words. So I write the things that I want to work towards, the things that I see in my future. And that helps me. But I do also draw little pictures as well. So ideally, I sort of mind map it in a visual way. But it's much more streamlined and it's much more specific for me.
Yeah.
That's how I like to do it, yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes it can be very hard to find an image that snaps what you're looking for.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Definitely, yeah. And I think sometimes for me, I want my version of it rather than the magazine's version.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. Well, for me, you know, I find it quite difficult because as a sort of eco person of the 2020s, I don't really buy.
I don't either. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah,
cutting and sticking and gluing is not something I have readily available to me. So I do, but I have done it digitally. I have downloaded pictures and pulled them around. And you know, interesting about if you do one digitally is you can save it to somewhere you see a lot, like your desktop or your screen on your phone, which is actually quite handy because with vision boarding, you want to see it a lot. You want those messages to go in subconsciously, frequently. So sticking it somewhere like your desktop on your computer or on your phone is like a good way of making sure that is going in. So there's some advantages to doing it digitally if you like images as opposed to cut and stick. But sometimes with cut and stick, like you spend time looking at it, cutting it out, choosing it and thinking, is this it or is this it? And just, you know, and there's some value to that process too, you know.
And I think, I'm a bit of a stationary fiend as well. So I quite like using different colours and different pens.
I love coloured pens, yeah.
So, you know, whatever floats your boat really in terms of your vision boarding, it's got to fit with you.
I have a very romantic relationship with Staedtler fine liners. I love how they come in the pack where you can like clip them up and they sit up, upright.
Yeah.
Engineered.
This is one of my early memories of Kelly at college.
I was with my Staedtler getting my pack out, clipping them up and just being like...
And thinking, she's my kind of woman.
She's got a lot of pens, that one. So my last thing in the toolkit for Hope was specifically to do with how, I guess, I interacted with Hope, which was from a kind of grit and resilience point of view. I made some notes about growth mindset because this comes up under grit and resilience, because it's like, how do I cultivate grit and resilience in myself? Like, that's quite a hard thing to get a handle on, you know. And I think for me, a lot of my experience of Hope were to do with doubling down, and I was like, that's quite a gritty and resilient response though, and like for everybody that might not come straight off the cuff. So like, what can you do to bring that about? So I made a few little notes on growth mindset, developing a growth mindset. And if you're wondering how to develop grit and resilience, this is a good path to go down. So you can have a little poke down the old growth mindset rabbit hole if that interests you. But it kind of breaks down into 3 points, which is making sure that you set goals that align with your purpose. I think that's so you can feel quite confident against adversity because they are aligned with your purpose.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's that meaningful part of it really brings about grit and resilience because you've got that belief and it's right for you, so you can push back a little more than something you're filled with doubts about. So I think making sure that not only when you set your goals, but you understand why they're your goals, that's really important. Being flexible in your thinking, so when you're moving towards your goals and it's not how you imagined it to be, you're not immediately thrown by that. You're not pushed or confused or pushed off the path. You're just like, okay, this isn't, this is lemons and not lemonade, but hey,
it's a different version.
I'm all right with it. Yeah, exactly. So that's important as well, to not be too rigid. And I think we were talking last episode about being like water, being like fluid, and as opposed to being the object, and I think that's always helpful in life anyway. And then the last point on that was to build time to reflect on your progress towards your goals. And probably daily. So give yourself a chance to recognize your grit, resilience, movement towards them, and how that might bring about growth and change tomorrow. So just allowing yourself time to recognize it. So they're my little hot takes on grit and resilience for anyone who needed that.
Great.
Cool.
They're really great. I think grit and resilience, like you say, it can be something that if you're not familiar with it can feel really alien and like really difficult to get a handle on and get an understanding of. So it's really, really helpful.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I think sometimes as well, like we hear grit and resilience and we think it's got something to do with like being tough.
Yes.
There's like an association with like, oh, it's just really tough about it, or and people start doing this thing where perhaps they're not being kind to themselves because they're being gritty and resilient, and it's like, well, it's not necessarily about that, so I just thought I wanted to highlight those points to kind of show that it's not necessarily about toughness. It's just about making sure you feel very confident on why you're on your path, being flexible on that path, and don't be against it if it doesn't present itself to you how you thought it might, and then giving yourself time to look back on it and just double checking those things. It's not about punching it in the face.
Yeah. I mean, what you just said there, tough and flexible, they're opposite.
In opposition, yeah, they're pulling you in different directions. Yeah.
But toughness is one thing, but flexibility allows you to be resilient. It allows you to flow with change, like you said. It allows you to work with what's happening. There's
a proverb about that, isn't there? Something about bendy branches and that don't break in the wind.
Bamboo.
Is it bamboo?
Yeah. Bamboo is like one of the strongest plants, isn't it? Yeah. But it's strong. It's one of the strongest plants because it can bend. Yeah.
There we go. If you're gonna be anybody, be bamboo.
Yeah. Or be the water, don't be the glass, or whatever it is that Bruce Lee says.
See, there's plenty of it out there. I recommend you Google it, find one that resonates with you, write it out on a little sticky note, stick it on your computer.
There you go.
There you go.
Which leads me into some of my tools.
Go for it.
So just crossing over with what you said about your goals being underpinned by your values, I think for hope, setting goals in the first place is actually quite important.
Mm-hmm.
So actually maybe setting a goal that's slightly out of your comfort zone, that's going to push you towards something new, will help you to build up hope because you're working towards something, and that in itself is hope. And you could use a ladder model of goal setting, so where you set yourself incentives or rewards for each step of the goal that you achieve. So you break it down into smaller goals, and you have incentives for each stage. What was the other thing that you said that crossed over? So you talked about reviewing your progress, and I think one of the things that is really helpful for building up hope and a positive mindset is acknowledging your successes. Acknowledging. So I talked about positives earlier, but actually there's something about acknowledging your own personal success and the things that you have done and the things that you have achieved that will help you to feel more hopeful about being able to do that in other areas, in other ways, in the future. And affirmations. So always. You just said about putting something on a sticky note and putting it on the wall. That's an affirmation, basically. It's positive statements that help you to change your mindset by you being repeatedly exposed to them. Ideally, that exposure is you saying those things out loud to yourself. However, just the impact of having those things visually in front of you regularly in a regular place will also reinforce those ideas and help you to change your mindset. And finally, on my list is something about mindfulness. So if you can be in the here and now and not angst too much about the future and not worry too much about the future, appreciate what you have now. So it does link in with all the other things I said about noticing positive things, noticing things that you're grateful for, being able to notice in the first place and be aware means that you're much more likely to be able to put yourself in a place of hope in terms of looking forward. So those are the ones that I wanted to add, which cross over with what you said in terms of the grit and resilience ones in particular.
Yeah, I think mindfulness as well is we don't often talk about how being able to sit with yourself and not fight your feelings, not fight what's coming up for you. You know, that's a huge part of grit and resilience cultivation. So mindfulness really leans into that. And I think a lot of people look at mindfulness with this kind of wishy-washy, woo-woo, chilling out woo-woo thing. And it's like, nah, this is like mind training. This is like mental martial arts. This is like, I'm going to sit with just all of this stuff and accept it and not judge it and just be in the moment with myself, see what's coming up, let it go. And that kind of training is wonderful for grit and resilience, leading to hope and change. Being able to accept that it's a struggle and to be able to sit with yourself in that struggle, you know, I mean, that's good work. I mean, I would recommend it to anybody. I mean,
absolutely.
Practice it when you don't need it, because you're going to need it at some point. You know, life ain't no cakewalk, huh?
Yeah, and there are going to be plenty of times where you're with yourself and your thoughts, and being able to observe your thoughts and be aware of them without feeling like you need to just instantly tackle them or instantly do something with them is going to be really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Yeah. Just being able to accept is part of that fluidity as well, isn't it? Just accept how it presents itself to you. There we have it.
Oh, hope.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Somebody shoot me. Jeez.
Here's hoping you got some interesting insights from that.
We nearly got through a whole episode being sensible. It nearly happened for us. It nearly happened for us. I was almost disappointed.
Yeah, it was quite. I mean, just to reflect, really, I feel like it was quite, in a way, it was a bit more of a serious one than we've ever done before.
Yeah.
But I think that's testament to how important hope is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did feel like it's a big topic and it's a powerful topic. And some part of me, when we were going to tackle it, I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to come at this. You know, but, you know, I feel like for that reason, it's important that we do cover it, because it does really underpin so many journeys and so on. And yeah, you need to give it the reverence and respect it deserves, you know. Yeah,
I still find it really fascinating. And like I say, you know, it's still novel for me.
Yeah.
So, I'm really happy to have been able to talk about it.
Absolutely. I think as well, your story for me is like, I feel like maybe this is something I'm going to come up to. Now I've started digging around and identified how hope looks to me. I feel like maybe, you know, in listening to you talk, I'm like, I hope that I get the old Hopey snowball. The technical term, the old Hopey snowball rolling around in my life, getting bigger and bigger. You know, hopeful avalanche of joy would be nice. You know? Yeah. I mean,
it's it's such a different state of mind to be in.
Yeah. And mindset's key, really. So yeah, perhaps in a few months I will report back to you on whether I've got the Hopey Snowball. Maybe a little throwback mini-sode about did Kelly ever get the Hopey Snowball she hoped for?
And so on that Hopey Snowball note, we say, oh dear.
We say, oh dear.
I was going to say good night and God bless. I don't know where that came from.
That's really interesting. You've been watching TV from the 70s again.
And it's good night from her.
And it's good night from me. That's got to be written. I'm just going to have to do a slow fade on this. Do you want to? We'll have one go at just a proper sign off, just in case.
Okay, I don't know what to say. So
cool. Well, great. Hang on, let me try again. So, thanks for listening and joining us for our stories of hope and the Hopey Snowball. It's going to be a children's book coming to you all soon.
Or some sort of X-rated audiobook.
Wow, some sort of sexy pamphlet.
And so it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from Rash. All right, I guess I'll find an ending in there somewhere.
Oh dear.
Thanks for listening. That was Unstuck, Unlimited and Unleashed, Episode 4, Hope. I hope it was useful and maybe even inspiring. If you've liked what you've heard, please subscribe for more episodes and helpful snippets. Plus, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Links are in the bio. Until next time.